understanding that managing this whole thing is a very, very difficult concept. It's not an easy task to do. You have to manage budget, risk, and communication, but you're also managing the personalities that are associated with it. In IT, we have this framework known as the ITIL Framework, which allows us to create these buckets which actually help us manage the overall IT operation. And it's called the Information Technology Infrastructure Library, or ITIL. And it's designed to help us manage the original design and service strategy all the way up to implementation and continuous improvement. And what it looks like is it looks like this circle. And basically we have what they call the 5 books of ITIL, which is service strategy, service design, service transition, service operation, and continual service improvement. And a lot of companies like this because it creates these nice buckets. And you have this circular item where the service strategy is, what are we going to provide in terms of our service? How do we design that? How do we transition it from design into implementation? And how does it go into operation? And from there, we do this continual process improvement. And if we need to, we'll redesign it again, so there's that iterative cycle again. Service strategy basically links strategies to customer value. And it's very simple. We're looking at service portfolio management, our financial management, demand management. Do we have enough resources to provide or to meet the service levels that we've basically told the business we want? For example, if I have a help desk, as an example, I want to make sure that I can answer all the calls within 5 minutes. Well, do I have enough resources to do that? If I don't have any resources, say, past 8 o'clock, well, I might not be able to meet that if my requirement was to answer the calls in 5 minutes for 24 hours. So we need to understand what the demand is from our users. Do we have the right resources to do it? Do we have the right financial resources? And what are the overall service portfolios? What do we offer as part of our portfolio of services? In the service design, we're going to basically catalog the services. We're going to talk about the specific service levels. Here's where we'll do the risk management, capacity management, availability management, and so forth. And what this does is this creates the design around the proposed service. If our service is going to be our customer relationship system, well, some of the things that we want to make sure is role-based systems, and that might be under compliance or information security. If we're in a hospital and we deal with HIPAA, again, this is mostly a compliance issue. Who has access to what pieces of data, and how should they have access? How do we design the system to meet those types of requirements? It basically addresses everything about the proposed services and how they are going to be designed and ultimately be implemented. The service transition takes that service design and figures out how we're going to get there. And this is the service asset and configuration management. What service asset and configuration management do is they basically say, this is what our configuration is. If I have 55 databases, all are MySQL and maybe a few Oracles, that's what I have in my environment. And if I change it, if I'm going to add another one, I need to make sure that I catalog it appropriately, because that's going to impact my ability to service it later. Do I have enough resources? Do I have the right skill set? As well as when we go into transition, we have release management and change management, knowledge management, and quality assurance testing belongs in here as well. I need to make sure that as I move things over, I'm managing the individual risks. If a change goes in, who authorized the change? What is the change for? How do I back out of the change? I'm going to talk about change management a little bit later, but that belongs in the service transition. In service operation, this is actually, once it's implemented, how do we maintain the day-to-day functionality of the operation? And basically, we'll have events that occur. If an adverse event occurs, like a disk drive failure occurs, well, that might trigger a certain sequence of events. In incident management, someone calls and says, I have a problem with my password, so that might be an incident. Problem management might be a bigger problem where we're seeing a slowdown in response time, so we might create a separate ticket that will go to the developers to say, we need to figure out what's going on. This is a larger problem. And then once those things have been fixed, what we then do is we'll go back into the service transition and say, okay, how do we move that into production from a change management perspective, risk management, who knows what, and how do we back out in case there's a problem. Finally, we have the continuous improvement. This is where we look at our service levels. Are we meeting the service levels? Is there a problem? Do we need to adjust them? What are we measuring? And we do this constantly. We basically report to upper management or middle management and say, this is how we're operating. We're operating at certain, our agreed upon levels. Do we need to change them? What's our cost associated with delivering those levels? Do we have the right resources to deliver? How do we improve on our various levels? So this provides this continuous improvement cycle. So that kind of sums up some of the issues in software development and ultimate implementation. We'll see you for Module 10.2, which goes beyond that.